And I'd like to invite the chime to sing. So this is my chime that I use. And in the Buddhist tradition, and certainly in the tradition in which I was received most of my training, there's a lot of language around reducing violence. And reducing violence is one of the mindfulness practices of SatiSeva. And oftentimes I noticed when I first started practicing this, I noticed I had a very general and narrow, in a way, ironically too, idea of what violence was. It was something hitting and forceful, but violence is highly subtle, and it can show up in our language. So, for instance, people will refer to hitting the chime, striking the chime. And this is energetically violent language. So subtle. It's not what we mean. And yet we put it out there. We're hitting the chime and we're giving ourselves permission to hit. Violent. So what we do and what I demonstrate is that we invite the chime to sing. I know, isn't it so beautiful? I love it. Friends, welcome to SatiSeva. SatiSeva is an affinity group associated with Recovery Dharma. And this is a mindfulness practice, and it's an extension of what we know about mindfulness as part of the Noble Eightfold Path, one of the foundational elements of our Recovery Dharma practice. And what SatiSeva does is it is 16 different mindfulness practices in 3 different categories: spirit, body, and mind. I have intentionally flipped that trinity around from mind, body, spirit to spirit, body, mind, because it is my observation and belief that we are experiencing and suffering from a crisis of spirit. And we need more spirit in our lives. In the West, particularly, we have this conditioning and this habit energy of paying homage and revering the mind, its rationality, its logic, its linearity, and we suffer for that. And what we need more of, it seems to me, is the poetry of spirituality, the metaphor that spirituality brings, the beauty, the wonder, the mystery. So SatiSeva begins with mindfulness practices associated with spirit. And then we move into the body, which is one of the most reliable sources for us to return to over and over and over again. Despite how we may have mistreated the body in the past or even in the present, the body remains a faithful companion that we can learn to shift our relationship with and toward. And so we have 4 mindfulness practices associated with the body in the SatiSeva journey. And then finally, we have the mind. And there are 7 practices in the mind. For the month of December, in our SatiSeva practice, we are taking sort of a summary approach of this whole 16 mindfulness journey. And I really want to open it up to community to ask questions. Many of you know that Lo and I published a book about SatiSeva. This is what it looks like. SatiSeva, Reimagining Recovery and Support. This beautiful design was made by one of our Sangha members here today. I don't think she'll mind me saying who, because her name is in the book. It's Michelle, who's here with us, and she designed this. And I just want to take a minute to describe what this means. The spiral that you see in the center is one of the most ancient symbols in the world. It appears all over the globe. It is a universal symbol. And what it is most attributed to in terms of its meaning is the idea that we will encounter experiences in life over and over and over again. But on a spiral, we experience it from a slightly different perspective. And so, even if we're having to deal with the same old craving over and over, when we look deeply at it, we're a different person than the first time we had a craving. We're in a different time, we're in a different space. And so the craving itself is slightly different. And we can look at it with a slightly different perspective. That's what the spiral teaches us, is it may feel similar, but it's not. These little marks right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, I'm getting myself backwards on the camera. Those represent the directions, north, south, east, west. And there's a little line connecting them in between. And that represents all the directions physically in between. There are 4 dots that you can see, and they represent the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water, of which we all are. And then this whole symbol is encased in a circle to represent the mystery and spaciousness of life. The color of SatiSeva, this book, is intentional. And it is the kind of the ombre mixture of my own spirituality, which is the Catholic ecclesiastical purple mixed with the Mahayana Tibetan Buddhist practice, which is a cranberry maroon. And all of the colors of on the writing and the symbol are of a marigold, orange, golden color representing the Theravada Buddhist practices that I am deeply attracted to as well. So everything about this book is highly intentional. And thank you for letting me share that with you all. I'd like to set our intention today with a sentiment of metta, loving kindness. And normally I pick a card, but today I'd like to just sit quietly and allow a sentiment to just arise organically within me. I encourage you to find a posture in your body that feels easy, relaxed. And if you find yourself so relaxed that you're falling asleep, please allow yourself to do that. On the journey of recovery, on the journey of bearing witness to people rediscovering the whole of themselves, we don't get enough rest. The body, the nervous system needs way more rest than we ever give ourselves permission to have. There's a time and place for a very structured posture, and we do that often in this community. But for today, let's allow the body lots of space to open and relax. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. And take a couple of deep breaths with me, breathing in. Breathing out. On the next inhalation, see if you can notice your tongue just very gently touching the roof of your mouth just behind your teeth as you inhale. And as you exhale through your nostrils, bring your attention to your tongue, resting very gently on the palate of your mouth behind your teeth. Breathing in. Breathing out. Our sentiment of metta today that just came forward is something I think I needed to hear, which makes me laugh. And that is, may you invite your tongue to rest. And for a yappy person like me, that's funny. Is this muscle of mine in my mouth is flapping all the time. And I have an inner critic that lives very close to me, very close to my ear on my shoulder. And it's very quick to tell me how often I talk too much and blah, blah, blah. And so every once in a while, I have to lean over to my shoulder and give it a little kiss and hear its message. Sometimes that's true. I do talk too much. And sometimes I talk just the right amount. And sometimes I allow my tongue to rest. For our meditation today, as you breathe in and you breathe out, what I'm going to do in terms of partnering this meditation with my breath is I'm going to say the 16 titles of the SatiSeva mindfulness practices. And it doesn't matter if you haven't read the book or don't have the book or don't know anything about these mindfulness practices. That's absolutely fine. What I want to encourage your mind and your heart to consider is when you hear the title of one of the mindfulness practices and it catches your attention, it grabs your awareness, make a note of that in your mind. And then invite a little gentle curiosity. Would you look at that? Why is that coming to my attention? What's that all about? And just let the question linger in the air. And when we open up our practice to share and ask questions, maybe a question, something a little bit specific for you will appear. Breathe in. Breathe out. We begin in spirit. The mindfulness practice of awareness. The mindfulness practice of openness. The mindfulness practice of space as generosity. The mindfulness practice of ambivalence. The mindfulness practice of acceptance. Those are the 5 practices of the spiritual component of SatiSeva. Allow that to wander around your mind. Awareness, openness, space, ambivalence, acceptance. See what's arising for you. And we'll just allow a little moment of silence. Friends, let's drop into the body now. The body as another source, one of three for the SatiSeva mindfulness practices. And I'd like to encourage you to bring your attention to the root chakra of your body, which is all around your pelvic floor, the base of the pelvis. If you're sitting, it's your bottom, it's your legs, your feet. The root chakra is not only a place of anchoring, centering, it is the entry point, the threshold to belonging. In the body, if we don't feel anchored, if we don't feel centered, we will not feel secure. And in the physical, spiritual, and psychological space of insecurity, we are going to question our belonging. So, by paying attention to the root chakra, by bringing your awareness to that part of your body, it's an invitation to root, to really anchor into the earth. It's a way to connect to the Buddha who sat under the Bodhi tree, who connected with the earth, who trusted his posture with the earth to gain insight and wisdom to the causes and conditions of misery and healing. He showed us a very specific hand mudra. And he reminded us, the earth is my witness. And he knew way back then that he is of the earth. You are of the earth. I am of the earth. We are intimately connected. We've never been separated from the earth, from the cosmos, except in our own imagination, in our own illusions. And so part of rooting and centering by paying attention to the body is to remember that we have always belonged. And then we can begin to sit a little bit taller, really embody the nobility of being here, the preciousness of being here. And then we can begin to practice the mindfulness practice of the power of pause. The mindfulness practice of boundaries, what I call the Bala Clohe, which means stone wall in Gaelic. Boundaries are altars of understanding, and they are sacred. The mindfulness practice of play and creativity, and the mindfulness practice of nurturance. These are the 4 body practices. Let's take a moment to let that sink in. There's the power of pause, boundaries as altars of understanding, play, creativity, nurturance. What's coming alive in you? With the body fully anchored, with the body rooted, we can now turn our attention to the mind. And I suppose the first thing I'd like to encourage you to consider is, what is the mind for you? Is it the brain? Is it your imagination, your dreams? There's no wrong answer here. There's just whatever is coming alive for you. Oftentimes, for me, when I'm in a state of contemplation, thinking, deep ponderance, I turn to my throat chakra, my whole neck area and my mouth, but I also go to my ears. And I really take in a practice of listening to the sounds outside of me, what's happening. And by listening to sound or its absence, it helps my mind open and soften, particularly if I'm perseverating. I've got a thought, I've got a situation, and I'm working it, I'm grinding on it, I'm thinking about it repetitively. And so if I can shift my attention a little bit to sounds, to listening, somehow this creates space around that thought, around that obsession. And something new usually begins to appear. So let's practice that together. Take a moment to listen. Many of you may already know this, but in my younger years, I was a hearing scientist and I spent many years studying the ear. It's a fascinating system in the body. So, what do you hear? Sometimes what we hear outside of us is an invitation to listen deeper and more pristinely to our own inner wisdom. It has a voice, it has a song. Can you hear your own wisdom? This is what it means to step into the mind. There are 7 mindfulness practices for the mind, and it begins with the mindfulness of the present moment. Mindfulness of being with distortions. Mindfulness of wise speech. Mindfulness of encouragement. Mindfulness of grief. Mindfulness of reducing violence. Mindfulness of love. Present moment. Being with distortions. Wise speech. Encouragement. Grief. Reducing violence. And love. All of these mindfulness practices can be explored independently of one another, as well as recognizing their interconnectedness. One cannot exist without the other. And while this is a lot, it is by no means comprehensive. It is a mere drop in the bucket attempting to explore the magnificence of this precious human life. So I'd like to take a step toward the conclusion of this reflection by reading for you the very beginning, kind of the dedication, if you will, of our SatiSeva practice. And then we'll open this up for the community to ask questions, and we'll see what happens. May the wisdom of love encourage presence and care. May the tenderness of love be forgiving and accepting. May the strength of love nurture healing creativity. May the eyes of love gaze with gentle belonging. May the divine call to love ripple far and wide. I dedicate this book to loved ones for all the ways they inspire, challenge, and shape us. Breathing in, breathing out. Alrighty, beautiful people. I'm so happy to be here. Have a stretch. Oh, look at all these wonderful, wonderful friends. Lo is leaving on the recording, and Lo is leaving me highlighted. So even if you were to speak, it's just going to be your voice that is heard. So let me just, I do want to reiterate for anybody who came in during the meditation, first of all, hello, hello to all of you. So, for our practice today, and probably for this month, we're going to continue to record this. My face will be spotlighted and featured on the video recording and audio recording, but I do want to invite people to share. And your voice will be recorded, and I may even mention your name. And so, at the very beginning of this recording, I asked for a permission. Everybody gave me a thumbs up. And I've given the instruction that if you do not want to be on the recording in any way at all you have to do is put listening by your name, and then we'll know that not to call on you or anything like that. But I really wanted to open up this space for a Q&A, for somebody to ask a question. I will answer it to the best of my ability about what SatiSeva is, what these mindfulness practices are, how they can be used in your relationship to your habit energy, your life. And so with that, let's begin. Is there anybody here who would like to ask a question? You can raise your hand and I can see you, or you can use the raised hand emoji. That way, Lo will send you an invitation to unmute. All righty. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Fabulous.
Good. I'm new to SatiSeva, and I haven't had a chance to read through all of your book. I've started it. It's beautiful. And my question would be, I've been in sobriety for quite a few years, and I'm noticing for myself as my son went into recovery, it sort of brought up new stuff for me to look at. And in my recovery, I'm noticing um, childhood traumas and how I reacted to it. And it's just bringing all this stuff up for me recently. So, my question with the crossover between recovery dharma and SatiSeva, are we using SatiSeva with the Buddhist practices, which I'm familiar with, um, at, at, as an avenue to heal these, I'm going to say co-crazy or codependency, because that's really what I'm working on is my codependency stuff. So using these, what you just went through, these mindfulness practices as a way to understand, to heal, to be aware of, I'll just say for myself, codependency as a practice, as a
Yep.
separate practice.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you know how in Recovery Dharma we have featured as its fundamental state the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. So that Noble Eightfold Path has 8 aspects, 8 elements. One of them is wise mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one thing to say wise mindfulness. Okay, I got it. But what is it?
Mm-hmm.
How can we get specific on it?
Mm-hmm.
So there are many, many mindfulness practices out there. These mindfulness practices are all about honing in on what is my relationship to habit energy addiction? What is my relationship to a loved one who may be suffering with habit energy? What if that loved one is me?
Mm-hmm.
So it's meant to be both of those things, looking at me as a person in recovery and anyone else who's trying to recover, rediscover, and heal those tendencies, those behavioral habits that are getting in the way. Codependency is one of those maladaptive ways that we cope with things that we don't fully understand. And what happens in true codependency, mind you, codependency is a label that is highly over applied and pathologized.
Mm-hmm.
So, in its truest state of codependency, codependency happens anytime you or anyone is experiencing a lack of boundaries. So you find yourself jumping the wall of someone's boundary, you're in their space, you're figuring it out, you're intruding in their life, you're meddling in their business. Of course, you're motivated to be helpful, but you're in the way. And you're in the way of their healing, their suffering, even their karma. And so the greatest practice that I see in anything having to do with codependency and enabling is to really cultivate healthier boundaries. And those healthy boundaries have to include gentleness for self, compassion for self, care, and beauty.
Mm-hmm. Good explanation. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Julia.
And I would encourage you to read the boundaries chapter.
Okay.
Go to that one. I think that might be really helpful. And then ask questions about it this month, especially. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that was great.
All
Thank you.
right. You're welcome. Dawn, I'd love to I'd love to hear from you and get to know you.
Hello, thank you for the invitation and thank you for the beautiful meditation, reflection, contemplation. It was very, very much welcomed to me. I physically wrote things down that stood out to me and found that much of it spoke to the space I'm in right now in recovery from multiple co-occurring disorders, but most specifically eating disorders and body acceptance and, well, frankly, body honoring. But also a lot of family stuff coming up, and I'm starting to actually explore the concept of boundaries. And I absolutely love that you refer to them as altars of understanding, just gorgeous. And the root chakra to a threshold of belonging. I mean, my word, the language is absolutely stunning. Nurturance, acceptance, but I think what's most uh, curious to me in this moment, what stood out to me beyond a lot of really beautiful serendipity or complete just as it was to be, is if you would be willing to speak. Well, first of all, I will ask. I saw that the book is available through a website. I'm also wondering if there are other available means of getting it. And if you would be willing to speak a little bit more on being with distortions,
Mm.
that stood out a lot for me. And I'd love to hear just a little bit more about it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for your reflection and your compliments. I'm just going to hold that so tenderly. Yes, you can purchase the book anywhere, pretty much anywhere books are sold. If you purchase them through the Soul Center website, you'll get a signed copy, and I gussy it all up, and it goes to support. The proceeds go to support Soul Center, so it's really a way of helping our community stay independent and autonomous, and it supports everything that we do for free.
Great, thank you.
Um, Lo, can I put you on the spot for a second? Yeah, you. Yeah, you. Because and I just want to invite you to share, if you will. So Lo is a Kalyana Mitra for me, a wise friend, and she is someone with whom I have practiced that practice, being with distortions for many years now, going on almost 10 years is my relationship with Lo. And she has some very fun anecdotes with it that I think might be helpful as a an initiation into this topic.
Okay. Uh, let's see. I think I know what you're going at. There was a time early in my friendship with Julia when I was talking about something that was quite distressing to me. Let me get the echo away from you guys. And I was, all in my head going through what was distressing to me and thinking through really what I find it is really being up in my mind. And I'm very good at, connecting all the dots and making all the logic work and all the brain stuff, and she looked at me, or she said to me, I think we were on the phone. She said, I think that may be a distortion. Now, there's a lot of other people that could have said that to me in a lot of different ways. And I would have been like, what? Who the hell do you think you are? Like, what? I know exactly what I'm thinking, all this kind of stuff. But in that moment, the softness of which she delivered it, I was like, oh, yeah. I think I'm not necessarily seeing, seeing it clearly. And it goes back to the idea of don't trust everything you think. I think which mostly a Pema kind of a thing she says often. And so that's really the way that it strikes me is thinking about distortions as being just inviting that little bit of space to come in so that I might and the safety of that interaction where you said it in such a way that I could hear it. So I could stop and go, oh, and then I could look around and see something beyond this world that I had created inside my head, which was distorted. And it doesn't mean, and I don't think distortion is equal to wrong. So I'll just leave it at that.
That's so perfect. See, I knew you'd be a great preface for it. So, being with distortions is being with our propensity to inflate, exaggerate, and also see clearly. All of it is part of it. And what we're looking at when we're looking at something, we may be seeing it clearly. The being with the distortions part is, are we actually seeing it as a whole thing? Do I see all of it? And leaving a little bit of space for admitting, I might not have a whole handle on this. Here's a perfect example. I'm going to hold up my mug for you. Plain, beige, boring mug. Don't believe everything you think. Don't believe everything you see. Why? Because if you close your mind off and say, "Oh, that's a beige, boring mug," then you don't invite the opportunity to see the other side. Look at that. It's got all these cool spirals on it. Amazing. And but when we're in that fixed mind, when we're in that tight, rigid place of anxiety, stress, habit energy, we close all the doors, we shut all the windows, we limit all the possibilities of something else. And in that limiting posture, we are creating a distortion of our lives. So, for instance, on a personal note, my inner critic, I talk too much. That is a distortion, because where my mind goes is it suggests that I talk too much all the time, as if I'm a rambling, babbling, whatever, and I have nothing good to say. I have nothing worthy to say. That's its message. And it's a distortion. When I also hear you talk too much, I had to be with it in an honest way and go, that's true, and not the whole truth. That's the instrument of peace that we use, which I haven't even talked about, but these are the tools of SatiSeva. We call them instruments of peace. And that mantra is one of them. That's true. I do talk too much sometimes. And the truth is, I have a lot to say. I say some really smart things. I talk too much when I'm nervous. I talk too much when I'm tired or stressed. And I know how to be quiet and still. That's the truth. So when we're working with distortions, when we're being with our distortions, one of the things we can learn to do is be with the truth of it. Be with what aspect of it might be true, and then recognize, oh, there's a whole lot here that I'm not seeing clearly. I'm exaggerating, I'm inflating, I'm diminishing. It's some old pattern that's coming up.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, Lo. Thank you for weighing in. That was wonderful, and thank you very much, Julia, for your speaking to that. That's a whole bunch of food for thought. Thank you to you both.
You're so welcome. Spiritual nurturance, my new friend. I'm so glad you could be with us today. I'd like to invite Todd to share. Todd, look for a little invitation to unmute.
There it is.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm more familiar with Google Meets than Zoom, so I'm learning on the fly. This is also my first Dharma recovery experience. There's lots of them per hour, so yeah. Anyways, uh, I know in the space of recovery we give each other a lot of grace, so not too worried about that. But in terms of I guess I'll just jump right in. I'm an oblivion seeker. Like I just crave oblivion. It's like I want to not be, but I have fun doing it, if that makes sense at all. Um, and I'm just wondering, after listening to you talk and hearing out what other people have had to say, I guess just one person so far, but just how this practice can maybe, I don't know, shine a light on what it is, because like I don't fully understand it, if that makes sense. Like I don't know why I'm programmed for that.
Mhm.
And um I guess since this is my first time, I'm just gonna end it at that because I'm new here.
Todd, welcome. Welcome, welcome. And I do want to preface by saying SatiSeva is an affinity group associated with Recovery Dharma. So if you were to go to another Recovery Dharma meeting, you'd have a completely different experience. So this is a very unique kind of environment. I also want to acknowledge your impeccable awareness of this state of mind that you entertain of I kind of don't want to exist. I want to go into this oblivion state and I'm going to have fun getting there by using all kinds of things, I would imagine that you do. So what amazing awareness. So first of all, bravo to you for that. That's a major, major step into A, healing, and B, understanding, and C, shifting. Because if the pattern of habit energy of seeking oblivion is causing misery and suffering in any way, then that is a call to shift that habit energy, change your relationship, understand your relationship. So you can't get anywhere near it without awareness. And awareness is the first mindfulness practice. It's the place to begin, to even acknowledge. And to acknowledge with such impeccability is and honesty is beautiful. The next thing I would encourage is using an instrument of peace, a tool. And it's a tool to help cultivate curiosity. And the tool is a mantra. And if you've practiced with me for 5 minutes, you've heard it, which is, would you look at that? And it helps to say it breathy, kind of like Marilyn Monroe-ish, because it lightens us up a little bit, like, wow, would you look at that? There I go, wanting to not exist. I wonder what that's all about. And it's a very different attitude and a very different tone than saying, huh, I want to go into oblivion again. What's the matter with me? What's wrong with me? That's a very different attitude to have toward oneself. This practice is recognizing the awareness of, I want to go into oblivion again. I wonder what that's all about. Would you look at that? This, my friend, is the practice of openness. That's also a spiritual practice. And it's just about putting it out. Like imagine yourself in an open field where the possibilities of answers are limitless. And you're not in that open space to laser focus in on one answer. You're there in that open space to invite possibility, including the possibility that I don't know. I don't know why I'm wired to seek oblivion. Why do some people like tomatoes and other people don't? Why do some people have in their chemistry something in their body that registers the taste of cilantro as soap and others don't. I don't know. Why is that? Why do some people have the neurochemistry and the evolution for a real serious and significant issue with alcohol? It's an immediate toxin, and others don't. I don't know. So there's a lot that we don't know. And by putting it in a place of openness, we can take some of the pressure off and simply remain curious. Because in that open space, we can begin to see, my habit energy of going into oblivion is here. What else is here? Maybe I can develop a habit of being with something, being with a tree, being with my hands, being with my feet anchored on the ground, being with my gaze staring up at the sky. I don't know. That's up for each individual to determine. But there's always more possibilities if we stay open to it rather than shutting it out to a state of oblivion. Is that helpful, Todd? Are you still here?
Yes, sorry, I just got the invitation to unmute. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, that was fabulous information. What I'm going to take away from this is the dictum that I know that I don't know, and I'll just end on that.
Yep. And I don't know is actually a really, really cool practice. There's a whole meditation in the SatiSeva book all about the cultivation of I don't know. It's basically asking yourself a whole bunch of questions, even questions that you know the answer to, but answer I don't know, and
Right.
just see what happens.
And this life is a mystery. No one has it figured out, right? And so that's why I always thought, well, let's have some fun with it by seeking oblivion, but then that is actually very detrimental. And so just hearing you kind of lay it out to just stay in a state of curiosity rather than let's burn it down. Yeah, it was very helpful. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi, Bonnie. I see that you have your hand up. Let's hear from you, my friend. I think this
Okay.
might be the first time I see you on camera. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Nice to see your face. And good to see mine too. So I'm in a sober living right now, and I abandoned my service animal of 13 years. She wound up being rehomed, thankfully. But I'm on a medication right now because I came out of psychosis very well finally after a year and a half of being in psychosis. And I find that I'm craving binging food at night. Are there any instruments of peace or ways to navigate the cravings and the loneliness that you can speak to, please?
Hmm. Well, first of all, that's hard. So let me just acknowledge that. Yes. So the first one I would always say whenever dealing with craving is the instrument of peace. Would you look at that? There it is again. Would you look at that? Okay. Just simply acknowledge that. There it is. It's coming up. Now, the next one would be, what else can I do? Is recognizing I know the path that this craving is going to take me on. I've been down that path a million times. To simply create a mantra in your own mind of what else can I do? And that would be in the kind of the play and creativity chapter. The other thing to think about too is looking at when are you having these cravings, Bonnie? Like, are you waking up from a sleep?
No, I'm like, I'll go to my meeting, North Star meeting at night, and then after that, I feel like I want to binge before bed because I just feel so alone and the cravings hit so hard.
Yeah, that's really, really hard. I'm going to be thinking about this one because the loneliness, what's landing in my mind for the loneliness is that it's true and not the whole truth.
Okay.
So then that's another instrument of peace, by the way, is I'm lonely. That's true. And it's not the whole truth because I've just been in this meeting with all these people. Is there a way to make more connections? What else is true? So are you in a place with other people?
Yeah, I'm in a sober living, but two of the people in the house smoke weed and one woman talks to herself incessantly, so there's really no connection within this house.
That's really hard. And are you stuck
Yeah.
there? Do you feel
I
stuck
am
there?
court ordered until January, and I'll hopefully get a phone in the next couple weeks so I can connect on WhatsApp and stuff.
Okay, so those are some beautiful possibilities that are coming along. So, one of the things that I would be entertaining for myself is first acknowledging the loneliness is really important, but not as an invitation to get stuck there. Just loneliness. I'm lonely. I'm working with loneliness. That's true. What else is true? And that's a question to ask yourself. What else is true? It could be I'm lonely and I'm solid. I'm lonely and I have connections, maybe not in the way that I want or in the way that I need right now, but I still have connections. I'm lonely, but there are going to be changes coming in the next month that I can look forward to. All of those things are also true. Is that helpful?
Yes.
That's what I would be playing with. That's true so that you don't diminish yourself or dismiss yourself. And then ask, what else is true? I'm smart. I'm creative. I have access to meetings and talk to other people. I'm lonely and I don't feel okay, and I'm okay. Those are also all true.
Okay.
How does that land for you?
That lands for me.
Okay. Remind me, Bonnie, what happened to your service dog?
So I was in psychosis. I thought people were stalking me and chasing me and trying to steal my unborn children. And so I abandoned her. She wound up in a no-kill shelter and then she got rehomed.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's painful.
That is painful.
Yeah. And hopefully you'll be able to get another service dog. Is that a possibility?
I think so. I think not right now because I'm in sober living, but I think, in the future, I can't see myself not having one at this
Yeah.
point now.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, that's hard. And it's so big to realize that, during a time of instability in your own life, your dog was cared for, has found a new home where your dog can be loved. And now you're working on you to get stable so that you can provide another stable environment for another living being. That is a beautiful thing to do. And that's a
Yeah.
beautiful service that you'll do for yourself and another living being.
Thank you, Julia.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. You're
And
welcome.
good to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Likewise. All righty. Does anyone else want to share anything? If If you want to raise your hand. Hi, Mary Lou.
Hello, good afternoon, Sangha. So, I love the book and I haven't read it all yet. I'm taking it in small bites. But today, when you went through, I was curious about a chapter, the mindfulness practice of ambivalence, and as a spiritual component that that intrigues me, and I will read probably tonight. But if you would talk about that a little.
All right. It's one of my favorite concepts. And it first came into my awareness through another book that I highly recommend for anybody on the journey of recovery. And it's called Beyond Addiction. How kindness helps people heal, something like that. But the beginning of it is called Beyond Addiction. And it's like the craft idea, the community reinforcement and family training ideas for recovery. It's excellent. It takes a real nice psychological approach. And they have a chapter on ambivalence that blew my mind. And so then I took it and then played with it and expanded with it. Ambivalence, most of us, when we think of ambivalence, let me put this into an I statement. When I originally started thinking about ambivalence, I was thinking of it in terms of, meh, I don't care, whatever, who gives a shit? I give up, done everything. And I realized that that's actually not ambivalence. That's apathy. But they're close kin. And this is why we have to be really, really careful. Because in apathetic states of mind, we no longer see possibility. We no longer see choices. And why this is important on the journey of recovery is it speaks to the emotional toll of recurrences. So a person has a recurrence and they're like, fuck, why did I do that? And here I go again and I've got to start over. Or I've tapped into my habit energy. I might as well go full tilt. I'm a piece of shit. I'll never get a handle on this. I don't care. I give up. That's apathy. Closes all the doors, shuts all the windows, takes away all the options and possibilities. Ambivalence is so different, but it's subtle. Ambivalence says, I need to take a break. I am not seeing this clearly. I'm apathetic. I want to give up. I want to give in. I don't know what to do here. I need to take a break from this. I need to step outside. I need to create some openness. I need to create some space. That's ambivalence. Ambivalence is still connected to options and possibilities. It may not know what any of them are, but at least it leaves some space, some room for them to exist. Apathy says nothing exists. Who cares? I give up. Ambivalence says, no, wait a second. Wait a second. I feel like I've done everything I can and there's nothing else that can be done, but I may not be seeing it clearly. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go breathe. I'm going to go have a bath. I'm going to go cook a meal for myself. I'm going to go do something else because I feel exhausted by this. I feel overwhelmed and I'm probably not seeing this clearly. Does that make sense? Yeah, I know. It's such a great distinction, isn't it? Because, and the thing about ambivalence is give yourself permission to have it. Ambivalence, we have a tendency, I have had a tendency in the past to treat ambivalence as something really negative. Like you're not supposed to be ambivalent. It's a bad thing to be, to have, but I think it's a wonderful resource. It's a spiritual avenue for giving myself permission to take a break so that I don't become apathetic. I don't become resentful. I don't engage in conflicted mind states and negative emotions and so forth. Ambivalence lets me off the hook. It gives me a sense of I need a break here so that I can create some space for something new to open up. Helpful, Mary Lou?
It provides the opportunity for me to say, well, I don't know. I just don't know right now. And I used to not be able, I was such control that I needed to decide everything. I needed to be organized, and I was very uncomfortable with saying, I don't know. I don't know what I need. So it's that pause. Anyway, brilliant. Thanks.
Yep. And I'll tell you, knowing is comforting. Knowing is comforting. I mean, when we're in the space of not knowing, it's very uncomfortable. Um, and unfortunately, we encounter that space all the time. And so, if we can cultivate a practice of just being with it somehow, it helps. You know, I remember I was when my daughter was first home um, from after being in the hospital and her diagnosis of cancer, and we were home, and I remember I was feverishly frying onions, friends. Like I was chopping onions because I was so anxious and so stressed. I was chopping onions, I was throwing them in a pan, and I was sauteing them furiously because what is happening to my kid? My kid has cancer. Is she going to live? Is she going to die? I don't know. So I said to Doc, my husband, I was like, Arya's going to be okay, right? And I'm like, at the stove, sauteing. She's going to be okay, right? And he said to me, we don't know. And I remember I dropped my spoon, like, and the whole world of I don't know landed and completely redefined my life, my existence. I don't know. So, what that did for me is it made the moment so precious because right now she was alive and that was everything. And so I was like, okay, what I know is right now she's alive and she's in the bathtub with her siblings, or they're in the kitchen body painting, or whatever they're doing. That moment is so precious. That moment is everything because everything else surrounding her, I don't know. And we can apply that to our own lives. I don't know. But this moment, it's pretty precious. It's everything. Todd, let's hear from you, and you're going to be our last question.
Okay, it's okay to double share.
Yeah, let's make it okay. I
Okay,
give you permission to double, triple, quadruple share. Go.
love it. I was just inspired by the last share to basically one of my biggest fears about recovery and being so new on this journey is they say if you give up one thing, you gain everything, right? That's like a common saying. Um, in terms of if you give up your drug of choice, then you gain peace, dot, dot, dot. But um, I have like the biggest fear that everyone I know in my life is a casual user. Like I don't have sober friends, but they're not addicts at the same time. So it's like this weird middle ground where like like admitting that like I can't like I can't keep up, if that makes sense. Um it like makes me feel like physically like sick in my stomach of just like I think that's just like operating off of shame that like for some reason I can't do it but they can do it. And um that actually might be my biggest hurdle in recovery, is that I am so terrified to lose the people that matter to me, but they're not like, we're not like in like a drug den, like it's like they're just living their lives like, but I'm going through something that they cannot, that they can only imagine, right? And I can only imagine what it's like to live their lives. Like we're all in our different realities, and that's that. Um, and so I think this is going to be the biggest just hurdle in moving forward to just like equanimity and just peace is, I'm like, what do I do to like it feels like my heart is getting ripped out at the thought of just explaining like, hey, this is where I'm at and I can't do that with you, or like I like people, places, things, I'm going to have to change all of that. And it just feels like is it insurmountable or unsurmountable? One of those two. It just feels like one of the biggest feats of my life. And I just, it's just going to be a second by second process of acceptance. But it, it freaks me out to oblivion, but not in a fun oblivion seeking way. um, so I guess that's the context I have for you, and I would be really appreciative of anything you have to offer in that department.
Todd, again, what impeccable awareness. I would imagine your share just now resonates with virtually everybody in this space, because what you're saying, and I want to bring forward equanimity as one of the limitless qualities that we explore and study here. And what people forget about equanimity is it is the balance between the positive and the negative, and so that we can create a kind of limitless neutrality. So when we give up our habit energy, our substances, our coping skills that have become maladaptive, everybody talks about what you'll gain. You'll gain this peace, you'll gain this clarity, you'll gain this sobriety, but almost no one talks about the grief that is, of course, with it. I'm giving up my comfort. I'm giving up my familiarity. I'm stepping into cultivating new patterns of being that I haven't perfected yet. I've perfected substance misuse. I know it, man. It's good. It's served me well for a long time. I had a lot of fun. I have a lot of memories. I've got a lot of good people, and I'm letting it go. Are you kidding me? There's grief there. There's sadness there. There's confusion there. There's challenges there. There's vulnerability. There's misunderstanding. All of that is there. And so the only thing that I would say, I want to acknowledge that. So that is equanimity. If we're going to be equanimous about our journey, we have to be willing to sit with the peace and the clarity as well as the grief. That's very, very important. The other piece I would talk about is the insurmountable, overwhelming feeling to it. And I would very gently say it's a distortion. And the reason is because we are so much more resilient than we realize. We're just not practiced in it yet. And that's what this is. That's what recovery dharma is. That's what any practice and hanging out with people in recovery. Recovery dharma is just one avenue. There are many. And so find where your bones sing the most true song of you and practice that and see what comes forward. And it takes a long time. It takes a long time to feel solid. But I will tell you, one of the things that I'm seeing that's really, really beautiful is more and more people are entertaining sober living. And so if you can find ways, mantras and boundaries to have with your friends, like really your tight friends who can be your allies. You don't have to make some grand announcement, but it's always wise to include a few people in your circle that know where you are, people that you can trust and be vulnerable with to say, hey, look, I'm trying to shift my relationship to this habit, and I need some help and I need some encouragement and I need some support. And so I might have to step away from these groups, these gatherings, until I find more solid footing. That's one way of setting a boundary. And there are many others, and we'll continue to talk about them. So we're at the end of our time today, and I want to thank you all for your participation. We're going to continue on Sunday. We meet again, and we're going to continue with this format for this month because it's a summary month. And then in January, we're going to start and we're going to be reading the book together. And we'll do it as we do in monastic settings, which is that we read just a couple of paragraphs at a time, and then that becomes sort of the teaching and the meditation. And so we'll just really take our time with it. Please know there's no obligation to purchase this book. You don't have to do that. We'll just be sharing it with you here. If you'd like to purchase it, Lo will put a link there. Again, it helps support Soul Center and the Spokane Sangha. It's a way of underwriting everything that we do for free, and it keeps our community really strong. Soul Center has a lot of community outreach with local treatment centers and so forth as well. And so when we're just trying to create creative ways of supporting that part of our mission. And so thank you for helping us do that. At 1:00, we have our traditional recovery Dharma meeting. This one is today. We're going to be on Wednesdays. We study Zen masters, and we've actually been working for the last several months on the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. This is the work of SatiSeva, and we're beginning a brand new chapter called it's something about being with effort. It's chapter 7. So let me double check. Oops, wrong book. So many books. Relying upon effort is the title of this chapter. So we're going to read a couple of verses from this book, and we'll create a meditation of that. And remember, wise effort is one of the aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path. Let's end our practice today by coming back to a noble posture and by dedicating the merit of our time together. I invite you to turn your gaze inward. Bring your tongue to the palate of your mouth behind your teeth and breathe in. And breathe out. In the Buddhist tradition, we take a moment to take stock of the merit, the goodness that we have generated by being here together. This is the generosity practices that we have explored for the month of November. The generosity of encouraging confidence in one another, faith in one another. The generosity that we've created here of creating a safe space so we can share our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences, and feel encouraged and supported. We have gained the merit in our practice by cultivating the generosity of joy and happiness. We have created the conditions by being here today for making each other feel at ease and maybe even a little hopeful and happy. And then finally, there is the generosity of Dharma, sharing wisdom, your wisdom, my wisdom. Together, it creates this enormously inspiring bit of energy for us to take in and take out into the world and share it. May the merit of this practice be out in the world. May it find anyone who needs it, people who are in jail and prison, people who are in treatment centers, in the hospital, people who are on the street, in the homes, in their cars, lost. May the merit, may the goodness of this practice find them, embrace them, and remind them they are loved. Friends, thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your practice. We'll see you next time. Namaste.